If Jack Black wants to come and be a rival band, then let's see. We'll take them down. So it's 6 episodes, centered around a Muslim female punk band, and they want to get into a competition called Sound Smash, but they believe, or I believe as the lead singer, that we need something more to our sound, so we search for a lead guitarist, and that's when Anjana's character comes in, Amina, and she's not necessarily what you think the band will go for, but Syra and Amina, there's a connection there, and she believes that she's the right person. Anything else, Anne?
Yeah, basically, yeah. I think first see Amina, because Amina sort of narrates the story and the journey for us, and we see it from her perspective. And she is the furthest thing from punk when you first meet her. So she seems like a misfit for the band, but then a lot of trouble ensues when they both meet, and then it's the rest of the show is how that musical journey happens.
So I wanted to ask, this show is so much fun. I thought, I'm just going to watch the first episode because it's really late. And like I said, I stayed up till 2 a.m. because it is just a lot of fun. It's right up my alley. It's punk. So I love it. With Anne and with you, I love the sequences. You go into this fantasy world because you come from a traditional, background. You go into this fantasy. I love it. It's hilarious. So what is it like representing not just your culture, but every culture that has that same issue when you're growing up in a bicultural
Absolutely.
culture?
I think that because Nida drew from such a very specific place, and from her own experiences and people that she knew and the women that she loved, she then ended up creating a world that, because it was so specific, I think is so relatable and universal. And I think particularly when you're like from an immigrant family, you can relate to the fact that you're always kind of across different worlds. And that's kind of messy in its own brilliant, wonderful way. And those contradictions are kind of what makes us. And that's where all the interesting stuff, the tensions happen there, but also the comedy happens there. And we're never one thing. We're both these things. And we're never like, I think sometimes we're guilty of trying to show people trying to fit completely into one world or another one. And I think it's more truthful and more real to show the fact that people and characters exist in both and are different people with different people, if that makes sense. Your different selves with different people. And I just love all those contradictions. I love the messiness of our brownness and the joy that comes with that.
Well, speaking of music, coming in, did you have any musical abilities or did you have to learn everything on set?
I play a bit of acoustic guitar and I sing a little bit. Weirdly, I also sing folk and country Americana kind of songs, like singer-songwritery stuff. So Amina and I sort of shared this sort of similar musical interest, but I've never picked up electric before. So I had to learn the electric guitar, and basically I think Amina is a better guitarist than I am, so I just had to like practice a lot essentially. But Sarah in real life is also an incredible singer, but she had to sing it a different way. You had to sing a different way, didn't you, for like kind of singing?
I used to be in a band where I did like soul and indie kind of singing, and played guitar maybe when I was about 8 once, maybe like a summer. And so this guitar landed in my and singing punk is just so different because you have to give yourself this permission to not sound, it's not about sounding great, it's about getting those words out, getting them in the world as like loudly and confidently as possible. So all the girls together scream in a room was just an amazing thing for everyone's confidence. We just rose. Yeah,
not only do we hear music from your punk band, but also like System of a Down, which is they're from here from Los Angeles, but they're so anti-establishment. It's so funny. They're Armenian, Americans. And so you hear a lot of cool music that exists out there on top of the music that the band plays.
Yes, and the Proclaimers, everyone's jumping on it. They love the Proclaimers, singing along in the car. Everyone wants to have a go. Yeah, we're very lucky that they were happy for us to use that music as well. It's so nice. All the covers, getting signed off for the covers is one of the most incredible things.
I kind of thought School of Rock meets Bend It Like Beckham because of the themes.
Yeah, that's something that's come up as well. School of Rock, yeah.
definitely. If Jack Black wants to come and be a rival band, then let's see. We'll take them down.
And what's it like? Like you mentioned, the creator, she's female, female, cast. What's it like working with a lot of, like, I would say, positive energy? How's it?
Yeah, but it is that. It totally is that.
Yeah, I think it's
just are now like sisters or something, I guess.
Yeah. It helped that we all like really genuinely enjoy each other's company. I think that massively helps. And not just on screen. The thing is, while the forefront of the show is these women's stories, but even off screen, there's so much representation off screen, and I think that was what was really exciting. I felt like everyone was excited because of it, because it shouldn't feel new, but it does feel new. So I think we just kind of cherished that feeling and experience, and just the effortlessness with which she cast everyone and included so many women on this journey makes it feel like, oh, well, see, it's easily done. So why can't we have more of that, please?
Now, I wanted to know, you guys are British. How is it things there? I mean, we have our own issues in the US where we don't get enough representation, especially Latinos and different cultures. How do you find the situation in England?
Yeah, it's definitely getting better, but it has been really difficult. And I mean, it's interesting because from my experience, when I went to drama school, I feel like they weren't, not that they weren't aware, but they didn't prepare you for when you left, that you would be put in a box, that you would be really stereotyped. So I went from playing every kind of character at drama school to then coming out and only being seen for specific Indian roles. And they didn't even have names, they were just called Indian Girl on the script. And it blew my mind a little bit, because I was like, no, we should be allowed to play. I played a man in my last play in drama school. I was just like, yeah, I can do anything. And then slowly it has gotten better, but there's a lot more conversations to have around diversity and inclusion on all levels of the creative industry, from the agents to the casting directors to the script writers. And that's really important, because we need to fund the writers from the communities.
Yeah.
Not just write stories about those communities, from an outside view. So yeah, it's a very slow process. That's hopefully will be speeded up a little bit by this coming out and us having this conversation as well.
Yeah.
And for you, how do you find the situation?
Similar. I mean, there's exciting stuff that's happening, and better conversations that are happening around the issue. More nuanced conversations happening around the issue. I think now we're at a stage where everyone understands that it's important. We're not trying to like convince people of the importance anymore. I think people get it, that it needs to be done. It's just how fast it's happening. And, it takes a long time for a show to get made. I mean, Nida had this idea 4 or 5 years ago. It was a comedy shot 2 years ago, and then finally it's come to fruition now. So it really takes time. So I think you have to invest in the talent early on, because it takes years to create these narratives, and they don't just turn up every day. And the actors won't be there if the writers aren't there writing the roles. So yeah, I think for me it always starts and ends with the writing.
So I wanted to ask, like I mentioned earlier, every person represents like a different degree of their traditions or removed from their traditions. So Amina, she wants to be married and she wants to have children. And then Syra is opposite, where she rejects marriage. So I love that dichotomy, especially, I'm glad that I got you guys, because you're like the opposite spectrum, right? But you're on a punk band, so you're expressing different kind of things, and it shows that you can be a group, but represent different.
Yeah, and I think we need a bit of each other. I think Syra needed a little bit of Amina in her life, that kind of balance, and the same, Amina needed a bit of Syra's fearlessness and sort of fuck it attitude, yeah, I think what's interesting for me with Amina is when you first see her and she's kind of on a mission to find somebody, even though her parents are completely chill and they're like, they don't care, they just want her to be happy. And I love that contrast. I think it's actually a compensation for something that she's missing. There's an emptiness or a loneliness there. And I love that you think this is about a love affair that she's after with a man, and actually the real love affair is with the girls, and it's about that. And I love that that's what the arc of that character is.
It kind of same with Cyrus. Well, yeah, in the fact that yes, she is rejecting marriage and those traditions, but yeah, it is the draw of her sisterhood. Like that is completely the arc of her story as well, dealing with that and coming together and being able to open up and share, not necessarily to a man, but to her sisters, to her friends. Definitely.
Yeah, I don't think you can have that. I think you can't find someone or create space for somebody in your life if you haven't found yourself completely. And I think both these characters have a bit of that journey that they go on in the show.
No. Well, I just wanted to say I really enjoy the show. I'm going to keep watching it because I want to see what happens. It's very compelling. It's like they leave you in a cliffhanger every show, which is genius.
The last 3 episodes are my favorite, so I hope you continue to love it.
Well, I'm glad it's only 6 episodes because that means I only have 3 more to go.
Exactly. Another binge tonight. Take it to 2 and then you can rest.
Well, I just wanted to ask really quickly, has it premiered in England yet?
Yeah.
And what was the reaction there?
This last week, I think.
Yeah, last Thursday. Very supportive. Really, really supportive. Lots of love.
I think people who have loved it, have watched it, have loved it. And I think people are continuing to watch it. Some people are watching it as it comes out live every Thursday. Today's the second episode that's coming out live at 10 p.m. Other people have binged it as soon as it came out. I think it is quite bingeable, the show, because they're only short episodes. So yeah.
Well, the United States audience will have a go at it, and I think they're gonna love it because I love it so much. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.